All right, there we go. It's all right, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. The camera's now on. I think people know that we're back. Actually, people say, are you back? I said, no, this is my front. Dang it, someone got that out there. Someone's listening to me. I keep pitching it, but I go, I would like to tell you my favorite political joke. Would you like to hear my favorite political joke? Okay, here it is. Ready? Get ready. Trump.
I knew that was coming.
You thought I was going to be clever for a minute, but no. Why be clever with that guy? I mean,
exactly.
A man has the brainless wonders of brainless wonders. Anyway, so Now I used to say that with my second graders. They all go but they're not here. We have in the second half our super duper clincher closer bulldozer, Mr. Britt Peter, who we kept kicking off the second half, followed by Melissa, then Wendy, then Alan, then Sharon, then Tommy or Minnie, Garrett, Greg, and Bob, and Britt again. Britt comes back. He is the bookender for the second half. So Britt, please kindly come up here and give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. He deserves it. He's going to bring over the second half and close it all down.
Okay, this is a found poem with thanks to Richard, who isn't here. One night he wanted to know, where do you go on the mission to see the stars? 5 a.m., found poem. Bits of stars through the gauze of light clouds. Where's Orion? Where's the dog? Too much light, I gotta get out of town. California winter. The rain is here that I asked for, that we all prayed for, that we wanted. A massed chorus of men and women sing praise to that. From a chalk circle, from burning sage, the rattle of beads through the wind. Rain, rain, Sister Rosetta and Marie Knight pushing the beat. Now didn't it, now didn't it, rain, rain, shrouds of water flow down the window. Or take observant delight in this slanting presentation, as the gazanias do in their cold bed, fresh streams of water running against the curb. And the Trump one. Strategy doesn't just yell. Strategy, don't just yell at him. The man in the long red tie, the snake oil salesman, the wall builder, the drone master. It ain't just him. It's the whole damn system. It's the snake in the grassland. It's the weight of the impeachment crowd. It's all the darlings that have it and want you to forget it. Forget the dreamers. Forget Houston and Puerto Rico. It's more than him, but he is the keystone, the linchpin for a house of hate. And if we can't bring him down, we have no business playing lawn tennis anymore.
Thank you. Rick Peter, who'll be back to close out the second half. He is this is one of the prizes, the last word. So the last word person always kicks off the second half and winds it up as well. So thank you, Britt. Now, somebody you haven't seen in a few weeks here, Melissa Miller, kindly step forth. Give her a nice round, please. Wonderful poetry voice.
Hi. Good to be back.
Yes.
It feels weird to be back.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. All those things.
Yeah.
There's something about the vastness of the desert, you said, the way the sky opens up. stars poised like so many dust particles in a beam of light at dawn or dusk. And it is more aromatic than desolate, a sharp, sweet shrapnel smell when the rain comes, oily, like leather, like tobacco, bitter pungencies. I pick up earth, bones and bullets, a mother bunch for the sensing. To render barrenness is to deny a cusp, a wing, and the sadness deep as canyons run is no excuse for death. A quick plasma pop sends embers shooting into ash. Where fire once flickered as necessity, entranced onlookers heartily asked respect. There are now greedy screens, irreverently beaming thieves. Rusted hatchet blade on splintered wooden handle rests among boxes of kindling. We are not built solely for city living. Safety is the riptide breath of a slumbering dog, the tinny whistle of a hummingbird, every corpse pose and inevitable ending, a part of a gun. Fragility falls off like a band-aid on wet skin if you let it. You hold on to your saguaro boot canteen by its dead woody ribs and drink. For brevity's sake, this is my most recent finished poem. It's called Letter. Dear, I have become the bird washed up on Kehoe Beach, skin and feathers peeled away and visibly unzipped from back of bone, skull exposed, and beak in sand. I am the fish prize frantically wiggling in an osprey's talons after a dive, or a driftwood bench long ago embedded deep in the California sand. You are the heedless riptide pulling everything back out to sea. Signed, thinking of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Give a round. And now, and Wendy Walters is now taking the official position at the mic. Weather and authorities for me to give a nice round of applause. And Alan Harris getting ready because he's next.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I wish us all, I always say Happy New Year, but I wish us all a peaceful New Year first. Peaceful in all that it means, not just staying home and sitting. Anyway, this is a quote from Henry Miller. It just kind of connected with my first poem. If we are always arriving and departing, it is also true that we are eternally anchored. One's destination is never a place, but rather a new way of looking at things. And this poem is called Starting Over. I'll let it, I'm going to make a comment, but I'll let the poem say it. Starting Over. Ever since I can remember, I have always been refreshingly moved by the phrase, today is the first day of the rest of your life. I'm convinced that the essence of these simple, profound words must exist as some natural imprint in the hearts and minds of children everywhere, from the time of birth on, albeit covered over amid the confining indoctrinations of most societies. Who hasn't witnessed the youngest of humanity forgiving and putting aside the pains and tribulations of their life in a moment, once new opportunities have caught their eye? The world that has ended for the one now in misery suddenly takes on new life as the changes of fortune are perceived with gladness. Having had a share of trials well beyond childhood, where I've lost sight of my inner compass, my sense of direction, this freeing, uplifting, powerful sentiment has often inspired me to look at the present differently, so that suddenly I can inhabit a larger mental world beyond the dictates of perceptions that have gotten frozen in their own inherent blindness. In an instant, hope has a curious way of renewing faith, which has always managed to reignite when seasons change and certain holidays or celebratory customs arrive. One experience of detaching from the old before long is followed by another rendezvous with hope, each one invitingly calling for another beginning. It doesn't matter what the occasion, a new year, a change of season, remembering and honoring the themes of love, overcoming adversity, freedom of spirit and body, or gratitude, any opportunities to start again by reframing my experience of life is welcomed and taken up. There are moments of anticipation, sometimes a ritual, a passage of quietude, and without fail, a growing sense of peace. Having thus started over countless times, it's now a familiar tradition. And not surprisingly, the same sentiment coined long ago that still rings true today for many a person who would meet life anew, it has lately, for me, outgrown its original wording. Today, it has become an example of how far I will go to reconsider what I believe. After all, why dip a small cup worth of faith into the ocean of life when there could be buckets to dip every hour, and say to myself instead, now is the first moment of the rest of the moments of my life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because you have a couple, you have a minute plus. So.
Okay, I'll just do a short.
Okay.
Go ahead and bring it in. Okay, this is short. I was listening to music, and this piece by Ray Lynch, who blends musical styles in a unique and creative way that animates the imagination to soar deeply beyond the rational mind. So I have this music. I've been collecting music of all kinds, and this one just really just made me go wild with my imagination. So I wrote this very little short snippet of a poem as I listened to the music. It's called Out of the Mind's Way on the Wings of Music. Someone whistled across the rooftops, drawing a wandering crowd to the edge of forever. Emptying their wishes into a nighttime of echo, they floated on breaths into waves of purpling light. The whistling seeped into hands crossed over hearts, and wildly, with abandon, spiraled down under an ocean of fullness, taking everyone with it. The crowd and the whistle merged until there were no barriers left, and all that remained was a radiant, expanding circle of life.
Wendy Walters, ladies and gentlemen, Brown. Morgan Freeman. Lassie. Flipper. Darn it. Okay, well, our next poet is Alan Harris. Give this man a round of applause. He's very much deserving a round of applause. 5 rounds of applause.
You know what I deserve? I deserve to have every person in this room put the ringers on their phones back on.
Wait a minute.
That was unforgivable, and I'm really very sorry. Okay. People tell me that I'm too cerebral, that I think too much. But here's a thought. Would you have said that to Einstein? Like, Einstein, dude, lighten up, you think too much. E equals M. That's enough. No, of course not, because it's not possible to think too much. How could it be? Thinking is what defines us as people and sets us apart from the hamster and the bunny rabbit and the aardvark and the possum and the platypus and the caribou and the koala bear and the panda bear and the howler monkey and the African spider monkey and the Alaskan snow leopard. And how can you do too much of something that does that? But here's a thought. You would never say to a dog, "Hey dog, you lick your own crotch too much," because that's how dogs define themselves. They lick their own crotches. So when we think, it's like we're licking our own crotches. And without the ability to think and or lick our own crotches, we would just be vicious, snarling creatures instinctively lashing out with swift and horrible violence at anyone who threatens us. And sure, there are lots of people in the world like that right now, but here's a thought. Maybe those people are like that because they don't think enough. Wow, deep thought, huh? Thank you. I just wanted to say I'm going to be featuring here on the 31st of January.
This month, this January.
Self-promotion. And these two things that I'm reading are from my Pulitzer Prize-winning book, A Glint of a Glimpse of a Glimmer of Alan Harris.
Did you write that?
Well, my name's in the title.
Okay.
So,
go with it.
I'm assuming I wrote it.
All right.
I dreamt that I stood naked before Fred and Ethel Mertz, who told me to stop watching so much TV and listen more to the noise of the holiday methadone-addled poor, and see if I can catch a glint of a glimpse of a glimmer of a shard of a fragment of a sliver of hope amidst the jostling for position of Jesus wannabes dipping their fingers in bowls of digital holy water, while their collective flickering morality intermittently illuminates the compulsive saluting of Napoleonic beat cops who were just doing the job that they were hired to do, which apparently includes hassling the ever-multiplying numbers of cosmic orphans who can only stare blankly at the overrated reality of megamall fascism and masturbatory politeness, their ears ringing with the hipster lingo of the day-glow soccer mom and the demands of infants to be taken off speakerphone, their to-do lists awash in reminders to update their self-destruction before returning to their refrigerated apartments where Fred and Ethel Mertz await somewhere in the world every second of the day. Thank you very much.
Alan Harris will be featuring here on the 31st. All right. Thank you, Sharon. Would you kindly come forward? Give her a nice round. It's a very warm writer. Passion and compassion, as I like to say, in a healthy mix. And Tommy, you're next, just so you know.
Of Mice and Mary Janes. I'm 3 years old, and it's 1946. Radio, KCMO, WDAF. This is a casting, children are needed, for live broadcasting. I've got this. I've got to have this. I've done it before. Let's prepare. Downtown, new dress, pink. I got 15 pink dresses. Clothes to match. Navy blue coat, white collar. Little white gloves. And a little hat. Okay, here we go. Down to Robinson's shoe store. We walk to the door, and Oscar sees us. Hello, ladies. Hello, Oscar. He knows us. He knows the drill. He brings out the metal shoe case, and he puts my foot in it, and he says, okay, you haven't grown that much. I think I have something for you. He goes to the back. There's not that many styles in Black Patent Leather Mary Janes in 1946. But he makes a big production of it. He comes out. He puts my foot in the little metal thing, and he measures it. And he says, like I said before, you really didn't grow that much. So we put the shoes on, and I walk up to the machine. I walk up the ramp. He's standing there smoking a cigarette. My grandmother's looking very proud. We stick my toes underneath with the shoes, and my toes are not touching the shoes. Okay, flicks the ashes on the floor. We go to the cash register. He gives all of his favorite kids bazooka bubble gum. I get a pink balloon and we go home. Next day, time for the casting. I'm ready. All I've got to do is put my shoes on, put my coat on, get my gloves and my hat on. They walk in the closet. Ah! My grandmother, what? She runs. There are these little pink things in my shoes. Little naked-looking pink things. And she's so, damn it! Walker, there are mice in this house. I am not happy. I hand her the shoes. She washes them out. She rubs them out with alcohol and hands them to me. What? Put them on. So I put the shoes on, and she's chastising him, and we're headed toward the car. I am limping. What is wrong with you? I can't walk in those new shoes. We get there. I get the part. We come home. I'm very happy. But every time I put those shoes on, I'm limping when she's not watching. Oscar calls from time to time to say that he's heard me on the radio. He has since retired. He's got leukemia and lung cancer. But he would always call and say how nice I sounded. We go to Oscar's funeral. It's a nice thing. We get to the basement for the repast, and a mouse runs by. I let out a scream. I'm an adult by then, but it's the mouse, and I am scared. I hope that all little girls would get new shoes, new Mary Janes, they enjoy them, and that they don't have to limp.
Yes, Scott Kish, thank you. And now, as promised, our mini feature of the evening, Tommy Avicolabicca. I like the way I say that.
I pledge resistance to the flag of the divided states of America and to the oligarchy for which it stands, one empire under oil with liberty and justice for some. Once, in front of a whole group of guys hanging out at Papa's gas station, he asked me in a very loud voice when I was going to start acting like a boy. He did it again at a family gathering that same year. I dreaded seeing him, my uncle, the cop. I went to the gas station to earn some money to buy jazz albums and books, my obsessions back then. We didn't get an allowance like the kids on TV. Papa wanted his sons to inherit the business he ran with his oldest brother, my Uncle Jack. They didn't own it. They rented the small shack from an oil company. Papa made just enough to support a family of 4 kids and a house in a working-class neighborhood. I had no interest in pumping gas and fixing cars. I wanted to be a writer. What kind of life is that? Papa would ask at the dinner table, the TV in the corner playing continuously, though none of us paid attention to it. You're gonna throw away your goddamn life, for Christ's sakes! You may as well be a bum! Papa never read books or went to the theater, not even the opera. His whole world was underneath a forklift poking at the insides of a sick car. Like a doctor, he could tell you every part and what it did. He barely finished high school, yet he rebuilt old Betsy, the green Pontiac someone abandoned because it had too many problems. She got us around for years. He cried when she digested her last drops of gas. When I started publishing poems in the Neighborhood Weekly, Papa said nothing. Uncle the cop ridiculed me and the poems I wrote, making a limp wrist gesture as if to say all male poets were faggots. When are you going to knock some sense into that damn kid? He asked Papa, who never said anything, never defended me. Sometimes I'd catch Uncle the Cop watching me when I was washing cars or pumping gas. His fixation bordered on obsessive. I endured his remarks for years until I got a full-time job at a record store. I didn't see Uncle the Cop again until that summer afternoon I came down into the kitchen. He was sitting at the table with Mama. I was wearing makeup and a mix of male and female clothes. My hair was long. He was lost for words, probably for the first time in his life. I smiled and purposely swished out of the room. I left home shortly after that because Papa couldn't accept me for who I was, and Mama couldn't shield me from his fits of rage, no doubt provoked by Uncle the Cop constantly badgering him about his queer, non-gender conforming son. I never saw Uncle the Cop again. He died a few years later. I thought it was the last time I would ever hear of him. I was wrong. One day my brother told me that Uncle the Cop wanted to arrange for me to have an accident. He had the connections. Mama told him if he touched a hair on my head, she'd take care of him herself. Afterwards, he approached my brother, who also read him the riot act. Around that same time, I and a friend were attacked coming off a Philly subway late one night by guys who kept calling us faggots. We survived only because this big guy came to our defense. I'll never know if it was the work of Uncle the Cop or just a coincidence. I mean, I'm sure it was just a coincidence. But sometimes it just seems like too much of one. Because I mentioned being published back then, this is a poem that was published in an anthology back in 1975. And it deals with an issue of the day that maybe some of you aren't familiar with, but I think the poem explains it enough. I dreamt that it took 40 years for a pope to visit Auschwitz. That this simple visit was broadcast around the world, a belated gesture falling limply on the places where the people were herded like cattle, and the empty rooms where the smell of burnt flesh lingers still. I dreamt they tried to clean the walls stained with human despair, to remove the ever-persistent presence of the people's faces torn green with fear, so that a pope who came 40 years too late would not feel the bony hands of the barely alive, so that no one would remember the silence that went out from the world and encircled a deaf-mute God in his final dance toward obliteration. What do you think? I only 20 there, like that. And I think I got one more short.
Yeah, you got about a minute there, buddy.
Okay, so this is a really short poem in the interest of brevity. I've carried too much on these narrow shoulders, walked too many miles on these small feet, felt too much weight pressing on my back and neck. I've clenched my teeth too many times, shouted myself hoarse, so many angry words spewing like lava, ultimately burning my own flesh. I've cried so many tears, seldom of joy, ached so much that my heart felt as if it would never heal, experienced so many nightmares, many of them when I wasn't even asleep, bled when I least expected it from wounds that have never fully healed. Thank you.
Wow. Let me have a goal to make our medium evening. Always stellar. Thank you. Always. This guy. Anyway, so we have the next readers are the concluding set. We have Garrett Murphy, then Greg Pond, then Bob, then Britt, who's our clincher, closer, super duper bulldozer, closing out the show. So, Garrett Murphy, I know you're back over there. I saw you. Is he still? All right. Give him a round as he comes up here. And then we got the inestimable Pond, Bob, and then Britt. And then these fancy prizes to take care of with you. Okay, let me raise that up here.
Thank you and happy birthday.
Not George Carlin's 7 dirty words. Is entitlement, diversity, transgender, vulnerable, evidence-based, science-based. What? No buzz? Where's the beeper? The shock? Anything? Was there not supposed to be some sort of catastrophe? Some earth-shattering cataclysm? Well, all that can be heard as some faint, feeble-minded, inept hissy fit from a most minuscule gallery which one would not dare offend peanuts by naming it in their honor. Perhaps that they had chosen a few slurs instead. More, no more. No more, says Roy Moore to the complaints about his sexual ventures with underage minors, and say those who wail about all the exposés about sexual harassment. Funny thing it is that no more just now becomes their anthem, never when no more was said by those who were being harassed for many years, or was said by those subject to profiling, or when no more was pleaded in anguish by the blacks and the browns, reds, LGBTs, and other kinds of others whose lives never mattered to the neo-naysayers. And when did no more fall on working ears of those cutting and again cutting tax and services, or the ones exploiting and abusing manual laborers? Has no more ever had much meaning to punishment-happy administrators or would-be education experts implementing draconian cuts and tests in place of art and rec and charter schools plus police state security in order to make education as miserable as possible? And when no more was said by those of lower caste, wanting only a level playing field, a fair enterprise to go along with the free enterprise the Moores and his ilk crow about? The answer to all this is essentially the same as our reply to Moore's plea of no more, as they themselves would smugly say. It's very simple.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. And now, Greg Pond, you're Miranda C. comes up. Then we got Bob and Britt, and then the prizes. This evening's wonderful adventure continues.
Dan, I'm going to read you.
Huh? Okay.
Black and Blues. Black and blue, the colors I use to reach the deeper parts of me, down to my poetic roots, underground where mystery hides, undercover and out of sight. Black and blue, as the twinkling stars dot the ebony canvas like white lint on a navy suit. I separate the lies from truth, brushing dust from the corner of the sky. Blackened blue. Melancholy blinds my way. Misery streaks down my dark cheeks and stains my pillow gray. But by the time the next teardrop falls, I'll surely be feeling no pain. When I'm back in black in my blue room, watching an indigo candle flicker, rocking in the cradle of my wicker, sitting with a bottle of liquor, listening to the howl of the moon. And this is the found poem.
Where'd you find it?
In the newspaper. A newspaper article.
All right.
It's called No Names. A construction crew digging centuries through uncovered one day the shrouded remains of 7 adults, 5 infants, and 2 young children, though they found no names. However, from their location, when bones were exhumed, it was widely presumed they were New York slaves, anonymous black souls who might have been snatched from African homes to become ship cargo or Middle Passage ghosts under Atlantic Ocean waves. Their tough lives were described by arthritic backs, missing teeth, pine box coffins, yet, despite the fact they may have reached the land of milk and honey, they were never really free at last, finally rescued from a purgatory between President Pass. 14 souls who only God knows were unearthed, archaeologists say, somewhere near the Hudson River from the site of unmarked graves. The plots were searched, though they found no names. In a Roman Catholic cemetery, they now lie memorialized, etched on granite display, something that would have never happened back when they were enslaved. Their bodies were found deep underground, buried in 2 rows, heads facing west. With their existence finally recognized, they were respectfully laid to rest, honoring how they lived and died in handcrafted boxes inscribed with a Sankofa symbol for return and fetch. Despite no personal items being exhumed, still the graves yielded a few clues about where they came from and who might have been who. One random construction day, the pine box remains of 14 forgotten slaves were accidentally discovered under centuries of earth uncovered, though they found no names.
Great fun reading for us. So, you want to read from there? Okay. Huh? What? All right, so I'm going to spin it that way, and then Bob will read, and then we have Britt coming back to the closer. Britt Peter. All right. Okay. Bob. And now bring Britt back, our clincher closer, super duper bulldozer. Introduces the first and second half and then closes it out. Like the wild man he is. Legendary.
Jack Gilbert didn't believe in small talk. I'm going to read a poem of his to finish off. And there are many, many, many people that are very thankful for long conversations with Jack. Between aging and old, I wake up like a stray dog, belonging to no one. Cold, cold in the rain. Friendships outgrown or ruined. And love, dear God, the women I have loved now only names remembered. Dead, lost, or old. Mildness more and more the danger. Living among rocks and weeds to guard against wisdom. Alone with a heart howling and refusing to let it feed on mere affection. Lying in the dark, singing about the intractable kinds of happiness.
Nice. Rip Peter, ladies and gentlemen. Our last word of the evening. Thank you. And you wrote that down, right? You got it down. Okay. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the point where we give away all these door prizes, which the mass of them have grown. Now, so, did you want to take this, or do you want to? Okay, but I'm going to make it a prize. Do you mind?
I want to take it all. You like chocolate.
I know,
Your
but
prize.
it might be too much for me.
All right. Whatever you
So we have cake here. We have the new Sans Rights, Karen Melander Magoon. She put this up here. Of course, we have Elements of Style, Drunken White, my brother used to call it. And then calendars for 2018, 3 books from Sally, and of course, The Voyage of the Beagle, Wuthering Heights, Noam Chomsky, What Uncle Sam Really Wants, besides a kick in the pants. Bells in Winter, says La Ms. Law. So let me just shuffle these cards before your very blind eyes. Now you'll notice when you signed in, there's a number next to your name. You'll notice that these cards all have numbers on them. So as I shuffle them, then it becomes a randomized act of self-destruction. No, wait a minute. Wrong. That was a time warp there. Time warp. All right. So, cut the cards. There we go. Let me just cut that.